So the session that you're seeing right now is originally a part of the IHC 2020 event, which, as we all know right now, was an unfortunate casualty of the COVID pandemic. When the entire set of 10 odd topics was floated to the speakers, everything got taken up super fast, and work-life balance was the only one left behind, which tells you this is not something that everyone is very comfortable diving into or speaking about, myself included. Despite my several attempts at trying to achieve work-life harmony, this exercise is how would I call it? Like a work in progress. But like all endeavors worth pursuing, I'm glad I've started, no matter how late or feeble my initial attempts may have been. In a nutshell, I don't have a lot of answers, at least not yet, but I can ask you some important questions. To some, these questions will seem very silly. To others, they may be profound. I was recently introduced to the concept of Ikigai by our friend Dr. Soumya Kullar. Ikigai is supposed to be an intersection of your passion, your profession, your vocation, and life mission. That's quite a bit. Uh, but if you go online, you'll see that most casual observers on social media have simplistically equated Ikigai with work. Is your job really supposed to be all of those traits? What if you step back and thought of our job as something that we did to support our true purpose on this world? Have you asked yourself what your purpose on this planet is? I have, and I know it is not making people slimmer and repairing hernias. As much as I enjoy surgery, I don't think it was something that I was put on this earth to do, or at least it's not the only thing I was put here to do. While my questions may appear to implore your spirituality or the perennial existential crisis that is the human condition, these are very important questions. You need to know in which direction to steer your life, or you'll be like a ship adrift at sea without a port. Once you've defined your goals and selected the correct metrics for success, we'll talk about this a little later, we can start working towards them. So I've broken the talk up into a few different subsections. The first of which is we need to talk about what money means to you. If I offered you 100 crores right now to lock you up in a tower until your retirement age, would you take it? You will scoff at this extreme example. The answer is obvious no. No amount of money is worth your time and life, which is essentially a non renewable resource, right? It's the only thing you can never get back, your time. But most of us make this trade off every single day without realizing it. We are woken up abruptly by our alarms to join rush hour traffic. We operate difficult cases. We deal with challenging complications. We deal with demanding patient families and sometimes difficult colleagues. We work so hard, we grind away any semblance of cartilage from our shoulders and hands by the time we're 50. We come home exhausted at the end of the day only to sink into our sofas and binge on Netflix. Does that sound familiar to you? This isn't earning a living, this is earning a dime. We part with our precious time for money that we don't always enjoy well. If you find yourself aching for a few drinks with friends at the weekend, as I often do, or rather, I should say, did before the COVID pandemic, you need to ask yourself, why are you going out? Are you really going out because you enjoy the company of your friends, or is it simply to blow off steam? Why is it that whenever you make a large purchase, say a fancy watch or car, you soothe your conscience by saying, but I work hard, I deserve this? How much money or how many gadgets do you really need for your fulfillment? I'll tell you, it's just a little more than you have right now. Several surveys from all over the world tell us that when people are asked what sort of yearly salary would be sufficient, people usually reply 50 or 60% more than what they're making right now, irrespective of how poor or rich they are. So everyone aspires for more. There is no magic universal figure that's applicable to everyone. So you need to introspect and ask yourself how much of what financially drains you is actually necessary and how much is influenced by societal pressures. To paraphrase Robert Quellen, who was an American comedian, I think, in the 1920s, we spend money that we don't have to buy things we don't need to impress people we don't like. This is why, despite an increasing average income, most people in developed countries find themselves in crippling debt. The more we spend on crap, the more we obviously need to work to cover the expenses. So, welcome to a concept that has changed the way I view my spending, the hedonic treadmill. This is a psychological concept that tells us that most human beings have a pretty stable level of contentment or happiness. So, for example, if I asked you to rate how happy you are at this moment, you would probably say a 7. This increases to a 9 or 10 when you've won the lottery, had great sex, or you've done an ETEP TAR. But very soon you'll come back to somewhere around a 7. No matter how much you have or achieve, you're going to fall prey to the hedonic treadmill. You will always find something that is just beyond your reach, and that's going to keep seducing you and calling out to you, making you unhappy till you acquire it. Nothing will ever be enough until you stop trying to run after the proverbial carrot. Now, I can't define what enough is for you, but for me, enough means having enough in my wallet so that I don't have to look at the price tags of mundane items when I go shopping. Full disclosure, I don't go shopping for fast cars or Rolexes. All right. When you're trying to think of enough, question how many of your needs are actually your needs and how much of it is actually due to advertising, social media, peer pressure. Think back to the hedonic treadmill. Happiness from material possessions is fleeting. Now, we know from experience, collectively as a species, that lasting happiness has pretty consistent contributors, irrespective of what you do for a living and where in the world you live. These contributors are friendship, good health, a feeling of community, and this sort of feeling that you're overcoming challenges. Earning a dime is not living. To quote the author Vicky Robin, whose book Your Money or Your Life I would highly recommend to anybody watching this right now. Work has ceased being a means to an end and has become an end to itself. We are all very proud surgeons. We all know we belong to a noble profession. We have toiled really long and hard to be here. As a result, look at everything we expect from our work. We want meaning, we want justification, friendship, respect, purpose, all of this and eternal salvation. We seek this in work rather than family or religion. Remember that saying, work is worship? I think it may very well be in the 21st century. If I asked you the old cliched questions, what is your passion? What is your purpose? What will you leave behind when you're gone? Our answers will more and more relate to work. This can't be healthy if work is our only legacy. Everyone here would have heard these phrases, right? Hashtag Monday Blues, hashtag Weekend Warrior, hashtag TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. It is incidentally Friday today, by the way. But I don't want to be the type of person who dies Monday through Friday only to survive or live on the weekend. I don't want to live 2 days a week. We should be working to support our own idea of happiness. We shouldn't be working at the cost of our happiness. The harsh reality is that there are several million people all over the world who are, in essence, leading lives of quiet desperation. So many of you, your family, or friends will be having this background hum of low grade anxiety with sporadic peaks added on for good measure. Now, it's important to determine whose liability or responsibility this is. You can't blame your boss for asking you to stay in after hours if you don't have the courage to speak with them about this intrusion into your personal space. Stop blaming your colleagues for making you unproductive if it's you who actually entertains them during work hours. Your department, your hospital, your government, your God does not care about your work life balance. And honestly, if you don't take charge and define the landscape of your life, someone else will come and design it for you. And honestly, it's not going to be to your liking. We need to stop ourselves from falling prey to the thought, I'll rest when I'll retire. When the kids are grown up, I will ease up. And I'll stop when my house is paid off. Remember, life is so uncertain. Tomorrow is a very precarious place to pin all your hopes. And you can quote me there. I feel the last few months have made this uncertainty really, really apparent. I'll end this section by asking you one last cliched question. What is the most common deathbed regret? Is it, I wish I would have spent more time at work? Now, there's a problem with medicine. I have a theory. Doctors lag behind their counterparts in business, engineering, law, almost every other professional stream. This is largely, I feel, because of our longer undergraduate courses. The MBBS is the longest UG degree in our country that at least I know of. And while most of our friends from school in their early 20s were transitioning into further studies or getting jobs, some of us in medicine were struggling to get into post graduation. There are so many exams to give, a lot of court cases every year, hoops to jump through, and definitely some years exhausted trying to get to the next step of the academic ladder. All this time, our friends were out in the real world. They were learning how to be an adult. What were we doing? We were struggling on our own academic version of the hedonic treadmill. I just want to get into MBBS, my life will be set. एक बार MS मिल जाएगा ना, everything will fall into place. Just 3 more years of an MCH and I'm going to be ready. Abhi, just this short fellowship is remaining, then I'll start practice. So see, very much like this hamster who's going nowhere, we keep thinking that happiness and fulfillment seem to be just one more degree away. And that's not the case. We stay students into our late 20s and early 30s while our friends from school are already ahead by some distance in their careers. These guys have accomplishments that they can call their own. They have career capital that they can exchange for more autonomy and control over their time. These guys are progressing socially, they are becoming financially astute, they're planning for the future while we are still coming to terms with our present. So, as doctors, we have a lot of catching up to do. In search of perfect, not the perfect partner, mind you. All right. Even when we do find the perfect job, we are at an amazing hospital, great patient flow, great co-workers. We are doing meaningful, cutting-edge surgeries. You're done a scola in the morning, you're doing an ETEP in the evening. We are still earning a dime unless workplace fulfillment is mirrored by personal growth. Remember, there are always going to be needs that a job, no matter how great, is going to be unable to fulfill. It's community, it's meaning in life, it's lasting fulfillment, and leaving behind a legacy. No job is going to be perfect, but we know what makes one good. Cal Newport, who's author of some of my favorite books, but I'm going to quote what he said in So Good They Can't Ignore You here. He says there are three nutriments for job satisfaction. Competence, because if you don't feel competent at what you're doing, you're going to be anxious. You'll be feeling inadequate the entire time, and that's no good. You need to have personal connection at your job. To be truly satisfied, you want a team around you who's pleasant to be around. NK made a great point about this in his talk on group practice. And the last thing that you want is, or rather, I would say the most important thing that you want is autonomy. Newport calls this the magic elixir of any job. You do better work and feel happier when you have autonomy and you aren't being micromanaged by someone on top. So if you look at these three options, competence, personal connection, and autonomy, you'll realize that you need to be in a job for a longer duration to get these three. If you've been working in the same job profile for some time, you improve your skills, so you become competent. With time, your relationships at work flourish, your colleagues and clients trust your work, and they give you more autonomy. So I know it's difficult, especially in surgery, to walk into a new program or department and be given free rein. But don't start a job that doesn't hold the promise of these nutriments. Before you join, you need to look at the people who are working in that department. How long they've been there, what kind of work they're doing, what their general demeanor is around. If you see people with a mediocre skill set and there's a high attrition of surgeons, means people just go in and out of that practice like there's a revolving door out there. That isn't going to be the right place for you. But if the ingredients of a good job are all there, you need to be patient. Don't keep hopping between jobs looking for some sort of perfect soulmate. That's not going to work. While at work, be at work. Time is a very poor proxy for effectiveness. Don't brown nose your superiors by trying to spend more time, trying to stay after hours. Be productive and effective, right? So I'll tell you something really interesting I came about recently. Slack is a very popular instant messaging app that's used by several large businesses across the world. Think of it as WhatsApp dedicated for work. On the walls of the offices at Slack in San Francisco, in bold words, you'll see signs put up saying, do your work and go home. Very, very wise words, if you ask me. And I'm going to put that across in our office spaces very soon. No, you can't have it all. Pretty depressing section, but let's get on to it. There's very little pressure for us to improve our personal lives, to actually pay attention uh, to that which should be giving us lasting happiness. Friends, community, families, especially in our part of the world, are very, very accommodating. And often they suffer silently with a scarcity of meaningful time while we are out there chasing our own personal version of happiness at work. Our want for more is really fueled by our consumption of social media. You develop FOMO, or a fear of missing out, seeing what your friends are up to. When I perform when I watch a well performed surgical video uploaded by a peer, it gives me a feeling of inadequacy. Like, oh my God, that guy's operated so well. That's such a well edited video. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you get the same feeling. Looking at all the several free and easy options there are to advance your craft and highlight it online, you think you can do essentially everything. And since you can do everything, it feels like you're losing out when you're passing up an opportunity. But remember, you can't do it all. There are only 24 hours in the day. In terms of sheer hours, there was a time where I felt I was more married to my job than I was to my wife. In sickness and in health, till death do us part, was not with my wife, it was a part of my job description, which is why I chose to prioritize and seek balance. So, what does balance really mean? Does it mean waking up at 6 a.m., working out, heading for a swim, performing an ETEP TAR at work, rounding quickly on your patients, no hiccups, no complications, meeting your friends for coffee, heading to the gym, having date night with your partner, reading half a book before falling asleep, and waking up the next day very well rested? No, that is not balance. That is fantasy. Balance is not about cramming everything you need into every day. Balance is about small changes, which at just the right places can improve the quality of your relationships and eventually your happiness. Sorry. So, what is society's consumerist, Instagram fueled definition of success? Is it pockets lined with money? Is it travel abroad to crazy destinations? Is it an amazing number of surgeries? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Remember, people's lives on social media are very, very curated. And just like there's a filter on the pictures, there's a filter on the life because they showcase the best, or at least what they think is best about them. We all have a certain amount of energy and it gets distributed between the different parts of our day based on our choices. So, relying on self discipline to distribute this energy doesn't always work. You're going to develop decision fatigue. What you would want instead is a set of habits and ready obligations that do this for you. Okay, so we'll go to the business end of the presentation, which is how you can develop habits for balance. One is create a vision board. Uh, a lot of people think of a vision board as a nice little board where they put up pictures and pins based on what they like and where they eventually want to be. That could be it for you. But I'll tell you, for me, it was trying to figure out what sort of a practice I want to have when I'm 40 and what sort of life I want. So that was working only 4 to 5 days a week, not working beyond 5 p.m. in the evenings, having weekends free for my family, hopefully being part of a group practice, continuing my hobbies like reading and maybe developing a few more like painting. So when I have this vision, it becomes clear to me what I need to prioritize. If we think that earning money is all we need to do, then we'll land up becoming the type of person who prioritizes our jobs over everything else. And that's not cool. My second advice would be make plans with friends and family in advance. That's superbly important because if you just keep relying on serendipity to run into old friends and have great evenings, that's not going to happen. I know it's difficult in the COVID pandemic, but let the vaccine come out. Plan in advance. Reach out to someone in a different city or country every weekend. Thankfully, we don't have to travel out of our houses to make trunk calls to reach out to friends in other parts of the world. It's so easy right now with the several messengers and video apps. So reach out to old friends. Don't let those connections fizzle out over a period of time just because of your lethargy. create a schedule or just maintain a bullet journal. For those of you who don't know what a bullet journal is, I highly suggest you Google it. This is a picture of mine. It's all my daily tasks, my weekly tasks. Apart from this, I also maintain a calendar, and I write down what's interesting, and I break down my projects in my bullet journal. So it's essentially a blank notebook that I fill up based on what is relevant and important to me. And I would highly recommend using this to plan your professional days so that you have more time in your personal life. When you're at work, work with intense focus. Don't do time pass. Don't indulge in frivolous activities. Don't have water cooler talks and excessive needless chais and coffees with your uh, group partners, co-workers, whatever it may be. Do your work and get out. Add one personal item to your schedule every day. So this has been a game changer for me over the past couple of months. I tend to add a walk with my partner or my daughter. I'll say I'm going to read 20 or 30 pages of a book that I'm really enjoying, or I'll listen to an audiobook where I drive, or I'll just go out for a drive. I add one personal item that gives me calm in my day, and that seems to work really well. All right. Before we end, it's really important to say that for work-life balance, you need to know what your identity truly is. There's nothing in your life that's more valuable than time. It's honestly the only thing that once spent, you are never going to get back. You work to lay claim to your personal time to spend it the way you see fit. You don't work in all of your time. All right. It's clear that we are investing too much of ourselves in our job profile. I have been very guilty of judging others. I'm sorry, I missed a slide, but yeah, essentially giving people time is giving people your love. Yeah. So as I was saying, I have been guilty of judging others based on what they are doing, where they work, what type of work they're doing. But say, what if this is an introductory slide from one of my other presentations? Assistant Professor of General Surgery. What if I was just the Assistant Professor of General Surgery? What if I was just a surgeon? What if you were just a surgeon? Does that have a nice ring to it? I think it would be a woefully incomplete description of who I am, and I need to get rid of it. I am a first-time father to this firecracker who consumes most of my days. I am a dog lover. I am an avid reader with an ever-expanding library. I love going to museums. I'm a world traveler, which most of my travels involve my partner, who I'm glad to say is definitely my better half. I am so much more than just a surgeon. And I'm trying really hard to develop this other side of myself because professional growth will happen as a function of how great you are at work. Don't let your personal growth stall because you forgot to see that side of yourself. Thank you so much.